Kris and Joe together I love. They're so different, but yet they're two peas in a pod. They just enjoy each other's company.
Warm and welcoming. To be enveloped in Kris's hello hug is one of the nicest things in the world.
Learned that they like to play Scrabble as much as I do, so we play Scrabble on a regular basis, and they usually win because they're both very good at it.
Yeah, Joe, the devil, explained to me one morning what Connections was, the game that's at the, and I've begun doing that too, and that's a doozy.
When I think of Joe, I think of the words driven, smart. Joe demands a lot. Joe is focused. Joe is intense. And Joe delivers.
Curmudgeon, funny, smart as a whip. And he's also the kind of guy that you can call up and talk about anything with. Whether it's poetry, music, the Ravens, or banking.
Joe's leadership style on our board is calm, steady, and all about our patients and communities. So as a finance person, you might believe that Joe would lead with the numbers. He doesn't. He leads with the people.
We arrived at their house for Thanksgiving, and Kris had set up an easel in her studio for my grandchildren, aged 5 and soon to be 3. Now, who gives a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old a paintbrush other than Mama Kris? She wanted to make them happy, and she did, and they painted beautiful masterpieces for Thanksgiving.
The first time I met her, actually, I was a paralegal in Richmond and was told that someone named Kris Crosswhite would be leading the meeting. And sadly, at the time, I expected Kris to be a man, and in walked Kris Crosswhite in heels this big, and walked across the room, sat on the desk, and took over, and I thought to myself, that's the kind of lawyer I want to be. And 4 years later, after law school, I actually joined that same law firm, and Kris then asked me to join her here. And so it's been history since.
Kris is incredibly smart, and she listens and she forms opinions rather quickly, and 99% of the time they are right on track. That has been a perspective that has aided me in making good decisions through the years with her support.
When we talk about the growth that WellSpan's had over the last 10 years, to take the risks and the strategic approach to growing a system that large across South Central Pennsylvania, it's really impressive, and Joe was, of course, a huge part of that.
I think I grew a lot as a leader working with Joe. Joe set a wonderful example. Joe historically, had significant leadership roles across many organizations in the community, and never did that for his own advancement or for the spotlight. Rather, he did it for the betterment of the organizations and for the betterment of the community.
Joe and I co-chaired the capital campaign for the York County History Center. Of course, when Joe was approached, my name came up as a potential for a co-chair, and Joe was the one that was supposed to make the ask along with the executive director, Joan Mummert. And I recall that when Joe came out to visit, I knew he had something on his mind, and he was beating around the bush a little bit on this. And at one point, he just looked at me and he banged his head on the table and said, "I hate to ask this of you, but would you like to be the co-chair with me?" And he just literally banged his head on the table like, "Here's one more time, we're gonna hit the sled." And it was just a very humorous moment. And of course, how could I say no?
I think they're wonderfully matched. I think it's like, I know it's corny, but a match made in heaven. They just seem to complement each other so beautifully. I no longer think of like Kris or Joe. It's Joe and Kris.
I feel it's a real privilege to work with Joe over the past 20 years, and it's been a lot of fun over the past 5 or 7 years to become a pretty good friend of his, and it's been great over the past 3 or 4 years to really get to know his wife, Kris, a lot better. I know they've made my life a lot fuller, and I'm very, very appreciative of that.
I feel extremely lucky to have good friends like Joe and Kris. How they have responded and supported me when my husband passed away is proof of the quality of the individuals that they are.
You don't often see couples like Joe and Kris who both have a knack for giving back, and I would simply like to echo the sentiments of everyone in saying thank you to both of them for their leadership and for their willingness to give back and make our world a better place.